Designcast Podcast, the podcast for design and STEAM educators.
Hello and welcome to Designcast, a podcast where I interview a wide range of excellent guests in design and STEAM education to get their unique perspectives. My name is Jason Reagan, and I use my 20 plus years of experience as a design educator to dig deep into complex issues. This podcast has one simple mission: to create a community of people around the world that are interested in design and STEAM education. Each episode, I chat with guests from all corners of the design world, from classroom teachers to authors and even to educational consultants. We discuss a wide range of topics that we feel are relevant today. I do want to ask you that if you're enjoying this podcast, please leave a review, rate, subscribe, share, or download from your favorite podcasting app. This helps the podcast get discovered by listeners that might not find it otherwise. Also, it helps me to continually define the direction of future guests and episodes. Feel free to drop by my website, www.jasonreagan.ga, to leave me a comment or to sign up to be considered as a future guest on future episodes. Also, don't forget to stop by Anchor and leave me a voice clip that could even end up in an upcoming show. Thanks for listening, so let's get to it. All right, welcome back to another episode of Designcast. I want to thank everyone for interacting and reaching out over the last couple of episodes where I have just been talking to myself, which has been really good and refreshing. And I hope that it's something you all are finding enjoyable. I really do have a lot of things on my mind, and I think sometimes it's just important for me to put it out there and see what kind of discussion or dialogue we can start as a result. And the last couple of episodes, we've had a discussion about skills and a discussion about, what would you tell yourself if you could go back in time and speak to your first year teacher self. And these are all really important things. But I think really right now what's on my mind a lot has to do with wellness and mental toughness and being able to deal with the extra added pressure on top of what would normally be a really stressful occupation or profession. And so I think more now than ever, it's so important that we think about our mental well-being, our emotional and physical wellness. And so I'm really interested to find out more about that. And so next week on Designcast, I have a special guest coming in to talk about that. I cannot wait to share with everyone what we talk about. It was really a great conversation. And, this guest brought up a lot of really good points to do with how mental and social and emotional and psychological well-being in a school needs to be prioritized. It needs to be put at the front of the strategic plan for a school, for an organization. And I think now more than ever, that is totally called for. And so I can't wait to share that episode with you. And I know that you're going to really, really find what this guest has to say very, very important. And so myself, I'm thinking about, as in my own personal situation, my school has been back on campus with all of our students for about 3.5 weeks. So we have been in some sort of hybrid or distance learning for 26 months. And so it's hard to believe that it's been that long. And so actually having everyone back on campus has been a really interesting study in what has happened to everyone. Everyone's under sort of a trauma-induced state. And some folks are handling it better than others, and I guess that's to be expected. And I was having a conversation with my students in grade 10 the other day, and we were just talking all about being back on campus and being together. And I told them, the last full school year that they had that was not interrupted by or affected by this situation was grade 7. And they could not believe it. And so it actually spurred a really interesting conversation with the students. And I would really, really implore you, I would really, really encourage you to speak to your students about what this is, how this has changed their perspective on education. And, I think too, it's an opportunity for schools and for teachers and for even students to really think about what was important, what still is important, and what are some things that maybe we don't need to do anymore. And I think for our own well-being, because I really want to talk about well-being, for our own well-being, that's really important that we don't just keep adding and adding and adding. We have to take some things away or modify some things or really adjust some things so that we can find balance. And I think too, it's just like working out or exercising when you're not using a muscle for a really long time and then you start using that muscle again. It's really hard and it's sore for a while. And so I think that's probably when we think about coming back to a situation where we're kind of back in school with students. And, and then I've got friends who are working in countries where they're back into quarantine and lockdown after many, many, many months of things sort of being quote unquote normal. And so the well-being of your neighbor in the classroom next to you, the well-being of the person down the hall, the well-being of people in other educational situations is at stake here. And so I'm really interested to share the perspective of my guest in the next episode. So I would love, though, in the meantime, to hear what you do as an individual, as a person, to balance your professional needs with your personal needs. How are you creating a sense of well-being in your own daily routine? And it might be exercising, it might be putting together jigsaw puzzles, it might be building, antique car models. I don't know. So I'm really interested to hear. And so if you're listening to this, I would love to hear from you. Please reach out through all the major social channels and let's start the discussion about what is important for your well-being. And also, what do you still need for your well-being? Because I think it's really important that we focus on this moving forward. And it's everyone's responsibility to kind of look out for each other. And I think unless you are in a good place, it's hard to look out for others. And so look out for yourself, but then also look out for others. But that's where we're headed. I can't wait to share this new episode with you next week. So please be on the lookout for that. In the meantime, let's start the dialogue all about our well-being, our wellness, and how we're taking care of ourselves in the education arena particularly. But if you're in a different field and you're listening to this, I want to hear about how you're coping. It's really important to me that we're helping each other out. And so thank you guys for listening to another rant of mine. And so tune in next week to have my discussion with this wellness expert. I cannot wait to share that with you. But in the meantime, please be good to yourself. I hope you enjoyed that episode of DesignCast. I'm Jason, your host, and I produced and created this podcast. If you have any input, I would love to hear from you, and I look forward to seeing you again really soon.
This podcast is a proud member of the Teach Better Podcast Network. Better today, better tomorrow, and the podcast to get you there. Explore more podcasts at www.teachbetterpodcastnetwork.com. We will see you on the next episode.